Hello SGD, Sacred Geometry Decoded, and this will be a video looking at focusing on 288 and 33 and these deeper esoteric symbolic measurement connections as well. So I've been posting recently, so 288 is a 4D key, 33 NASA, Freemasons, Hermeticism, how it applies, all other connections, measurement, metrology connections, but also in symbology and other aspects. But it would also relate to 6665, a divine proportion, because of that number 288, and 345 triangles is very important decoder that's used in, well, for centuries, especially connected in the modern sense to Theosophy, Rosicrucian, Freemasons, but it extends way back in time. You will find it across ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and then through very cool records such as the books of architecture by Vitruvius and other aspects of it as well. But what's going on? So 208 and 33. Well, the Great Flood as described in the Epic of Gilgamesh will be a connector, as will New Jerusalem, and I'll be using the King James version of the Bible and he measured the city with a reed 12,000 furlongs. One furlong is 660 feet, as where the older definitions will be stadia. Stadia varies. There's many different stadia across time, and you can almost pick or choose a certain stadia to fit exactly what you want. So that's a bit of a problem. But the furlong, well defined, and goes to New Jerusalem. Now it's also interesting because of the connections to Hermeticism, Queen Elizabeth, and then King James, who oversaw the King James version. But there are also aspects in regards to Hermeticism and alchemy, such as Heinrich Khunrath, Hermeticist, physician, alchemist, and also with links to the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. He was one of the people who was very interested in translating and looking deeper into it. Isaac Newton was also very interested in the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. There's only 13 lines on there, but one of the lines is essentially as above, so below. And it's interesting because every action has an opposite and equal reaction as well. As above, so below, equal and opposite reactions. Again, these Hermeticists, you'll see, well, they're very much into the geometry. And you also see, okay, hand symbols could connect, but also the Tetragrammaton. Okay, we'll get a little bit better images of that soon. But Francis Yates claims that Heinrich Khunrath was a link between John Dee and Rosicrucianism. So again, John Dee. Another image, very important, overloaded image where we have rebus, Azoph, salt, sulfur, and mercury. And this is by Heinrich Khunrath, but we also have two very important features, here and here, which is again repeated in all these Hermetic works. 1, then 2, then 3, then 4 dots, and the name of God, or the Tetragrammaton, as is in biblical, especially Kabbalist tradition. So the Tetragrammaton or the Tetractys. Pythagoreans are said to have sworn their oath on the Tetractys, and you'll also see it in these other aspects, especially connected to Kabbalah. Another image by Heinrich Khunrath, and there we see the Tetractys once again. So if we go back here, we see the Tetragrammaton, where he's just got the last or the full 4 letters spelt out, as where in this second image here we see he's actually got the Tetragrammaton posted there. Now, Athanasius Kircher did a video looking at, so again, 345 triangle, pentagon and hexagon, 6/5, measurement, the magic circle, but again 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, he's just like Heinrich Khunrath, who depicts the Tetragrammaton as a visual symbol. We see that in one form or another, all these Hermeticists, alchemists, esoteric, famed esoteric writers and or translators will also include that in one form or another. It's the geometry and the math underlying it is a constant, and it's a verifiable constant, but because it's math and geometry, it can't be lost in translation. Now, it can be embedded in different forms, but they'll always point back. Compass, 3, 4, 5 triangle, the pentagon and the hexagon, the magic square of 15, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, then the fifth. Okay, that's something else, but that would link in because, yeah, so Tetragrammaton, Tetractys, Pythagoreans, alchemists, hermeticists, Kabbalists, and biblical traditions, and also as is embedded in more, let's just say, modern incarnations of this ancient system of encoding knowledge, measurement, astronomy. But the Tetractys, so they feel that's as dots, but so as numbers. So 1, and then there's 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So how does 288 and 33 connect? Well, now let's factorials. So what does that exclamation point mean after that when they write that? Well, it's 1 factorial is 1, so, and then 2 factorial is 1 times 2. 3 factorial, 1 times 2 times 3. 4, 1 times 2 times 3 times 4. So you get 1, 2, 6, and 24. Multiply them together. 1 times 2 times 6 times 24 is 288. How does that work? Well, 33 is the addition of a first, so you multiply, you get 288. If you add the first 4 factorials, as the Tetractys or Tetragrammaton, you get 33. 1 plus 2 plus 6 plus 24 equals 33. These numbers are linked. This is part of the way it works. Now, links in the description to the earlier videos because there's so much in there, and I won't go over it again. Epic of Gilgamesh, he describes his ancestor was Utnapishtim, who was the survivor of the Great Flood. So the Great Flood story of Utnapishtim, which includes a dove, a swallow, and a raven. It's essentially, the Noah's Flood is a retelling of the Epic of Gilgamesh, but he describes the boat. Now, the oldest found description of the Ark of Utnapishtim, the preserver of life, is as a round boat. The later depictions, such as here from the tablet 11, it describes it as a cube. On the 5th day, I laid out her exterior. It was a field in area. Now, so 120 by 120 cubits, well, that's 14,400 cubits. So one field is 14. Okay, its walls were each 10 times 12 cubits in height. So 120 cubits high. The sides of its top were of equal length. The sides of equal length. So a cube with edge lengths of 120 cubits. So what is a cubit? Well, a Royal Babylonian cubit, as used at the time when Tablet 11 was written, 120 cubits would be 180 Babylonian feet, which just happens to equal 180 ancient Indus Mohenjo-daro Harappa feet, which just happens to convert to the Saxon foot, which was used just before they moved to the modern English foot. So we see sort of cross regions again, cross time, that these same systems of measurement units connect and are being repeated. Now, what does that mean? So 1.1 modern feet equals 1 Royal Babylonian foot, or 1 Mohenjo-daro Harappa Indus foot, or 1 Saxon foot, which makes each edge 3,300 ionic fingers. Recent videos, again, I just retouched on what is an ionic foot. This is an ancient Greek unit, such as Doric as well, Ionic Doric columns, as in tracing boards. But the Salamis stone, this is all studied, known. We have the evidence of this. So now, it just so happens that 3,300 Ionic feet equals 2,880 Saxon fingers. Sorry, Ionic fingers equals 2,880 Saxon fingers, 33 and 288 on the Ionic and Saxon scale. Now, because that's one edge, but there's 12 edges on a cube, so the total edge length is 2,880 Saxon span. The total edge length is 3,300 Ionic span. And let's go to the Sumerian Kings list. And what do we have here? So I'll put the link in the description because there is one of the translations of the Kings list here. Sorry, that's a little bit out of screen. I'll put that link in here because it describes the list of the kings who ruled in Sumer, and then the flood swept over. So these are the pre-flood kings. Now the rest of it is a wonderful study in math, and again, if you connect it to geometry, astronomy, arithmetic, music, you just get so much lovely information coming out of it. But back to here, as the kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in Eridug, and Lissa King, he ruled for 28,800 years. I've had 36,000, 64,800 years, 432,00 years, but again, 288, 288, 288, 288. Okay, also 108,000 years. So 288 is the number which most repeats, is the most prominent number in these pre-flood kings lists. Now, I could go into 186 and 21, but we just want to stick with these for now. So let's list those numbers. This is a harmonics chart, which has so many aspects. But 288, okay, I've added a 0 there, sorry, but that doesn't matter because we're still just focusing on a 36. But 288, 36, 648, 432, 108. Now there are different translations and aspects. Okay, so that's the one that I'm showed. We also have these two, which are some props. So for instance, 2. Kings have totally different Greek names, but that are not easily matched to their Sumerian counterparts. So, but that's why this particular one and that translation I showed seems to be the most credible, scholarly, let's say. Now, we also have what's repeated: 72,000, 21,600, 72,000, 72,000, 21,600. We also see 72 and 216 again. Now, so, and then the flood swept over, which brings us back to the Epic of Gilgamesh. But what about New Jerusalem? King James Version, furlongs, 12,000 furlong wide, 12,000 furlong deep, 12,000 furlong high. That just happens to convert to 288,000. Saxon palms, which is equal to 33,000. Ionic palms, Saxon and Ionic scale, once again converging at these particular numbers. And so the total edge length, 288, bunch of 0, Saxon yards, 33, bunch of 0, Ionic yards. Same sets of measurement, same units of measurements, bringing back to the same numbers. So 33, 288 being embedded in here, being so important, the Tetractys and the Tetragrammaton. 33 to the 4th, which is, this is like a number even connected to Hermes, is 4, and this is, so the 4th again being an important part. And so, for instance, US Capitol building, well, just happens to be 288 feet high. You'll see the same number embedded in measurements of major cathedrals, public buildings, temples, both modern and ancient, of course. And it has 33 steps. So again, 288 and 33. This is repeated in these major structures. These are not like from IKEA off-the-shelf standardized units. These buildings are carefully designed in a symbolic sense, and the most measurable symbol is the measurements and the reflected aspects in there. So you can show an image, and the interpretation of the image can be interpreted different ways, almost depending on your mindset. But the numbers, the geometry are universal constants. You can't fiddle with them. They can't be, and that they're repeated consistently is part of a plan. In a random world, it wouldn't happen so often. Now, even the columns, these at the National Arboretum in Washington, they were formerly here at the Capitol building. They happen to be 33 feet high again. So the geometry, the symbology, the esoteric nature of these things, we have levels and set in, and the importance of number and geometry being, doesn't matter what your language, doesn't matter what your religion, doesn't matter what your belief is, or these are built into nature, and they're reflected in the architecture and ancient legends as well. So 208 and 33, very nicely linked through biblical Kabbalist, the Epic of Gilgamesh, systems of measurement, geometric aspects as well. So there you go. Have a good one. Again, links in the description where I go through these in a little bit more detail. Cheers.